Live from the station.
The year 2020.
Your corner. You're watching Fox 4 News at 11.
Changing how we perceive, how we discuss and express being black in America. Thanks for sticking with us for local coverage at 11. I'm Patrick Nolan.
And I'm Jane Monreal. As we close out our Black History Month celebration here at Fox 4, our Leslie Dellaspoor talked with community leaders about how to move forward in 2021 in an open conversation about race.
The year 2020 left an unforgettable mark on the world, from the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic to the racial and social injustice that broke out across this nation. Despite so much grief and strife, there was a consciousness that came over people unlike we've seen before, leading many to ask the question of how do we move forward in 2021?
But if a person doesn't have the capacity to hear from their hearts, to hear from a space of justice or a space of compassion, then there's going to be a deafness.
Some say we should do more listening than talking, and even argue that's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Abdul'haq Muhammad with the Quality Life Center of Southwest Florida says the time to start listening is now.
Great deal of analysis. People need to hear different viewpoints, not only viewpoints from one side, but to hear others and to have a heavy dialogue and exchange in order for people to better understand each other.
Racial inequality is etched in the minds of many for those on the opposite side of the fence in order to finally understand what's been going on within the black community for 400+ years. An open and candid conversation about race is needed.
It's important that people understand the genesis, the root cause of what we saw that produced the protests that we saw last year. From one perspective, people of color, this brings up some historical hurts during the time of the Deep South, when African Americans' lives were not valued, respected.
This needed conversation led Chantel Rhodes to co-found the peaceful protests of Lee County in order to portray the protests seen around the country in a way that it couldn't be undermined.
Fort Myers in Southwest Florida, we brought it home. We showed up in our very own way to say, you know what, we want to participate in this. A lot of people wanted to focus on the looting and the rioting that was taking place, so that's why we emphasized the peaceful protest, because we wanted our message to be loud and clear without any barriers, without any room for accusation. We wanted the message of Black Lives Matter to be very loud and clear.
Based on some of the events of 2020, including the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, Attorney Joe North says they've given us insight on what is happening in this country in terms of division, but also in efforts to try and change that, bringing everyone together. North says the healing process starts with a simple task of neighbors having empathy for one another.
In other words, putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. So when my children or grandchildren leave the house, I can't help but wonder what's going to happen to them when they're out and about, whether it be that they're stopped by law enforcement or just interaction with others. So again, getting back to empathy, I would ask others, are you concerned when your kids and your grandkids leave the house? Do you have a concern about whether they're going to get back home safely? And when you start to put it in those terms and you're thinking about your own family, I think that that can help you get with us to create a better situation for everybody.
In Fort Myers, Leslie Dellaspoor, Fox 4 News.
We've been showcasing the many faces, contributions, and legacies of folks who've contributed to our area over the decades. We've been doing it all month long. If you want to see more of our coverage, go to fox4now.com, click on the Black History Month icon. It's right near the top of the page, right under the Fox 4 logo, and Rebound Southwest Florida.